Hey guys, how is everybody doing? With the release of Deadpool and Wolverine this Friday, my most anticipated movie of the year, very excited for the movie, I decided to have a little fun. So, as I said, it's my most anticipated movie of the year. So I wanted to have a little bit fun, so I decided to go back and review some old Wolverine and Deadpool movies. I'm obviously going to review the first two Deadpool movies, so I'm going to do that no matter what. And I realized something. I love comic book movies. I praise them. They're one of my favorite things of all time. I'm a huge comic book fan. I love the comic books. There's something I read all the time. I'm currently reading Invincible right now. That's how much I love it. I bought the big ass Camden one. I would get it for you, but it's very heavy and it's buried in a lot of shit over there. But I wanted to do this because I do want to talk about comic book movies, and I felt it's the perfect time to talk about some. So for the next few days, you're going to be getting my thoughts on X-Men Origins Wolverine as you're watching right now. Tomorrow, hopefully, you'll get my thoughts on the Wolverine, and then after that, I'll be talking about Deadpool, and then I'll be talking about Logan, and then Deadpool 2. So you're going to get my thoughts on those five movies. Why am I talking about those movies in particular? Well, Deadpool and Wolverine. I've obviously got to talk about the first Deadpool movies because those two movies lead to the new Deadpool movie, and it has Wolverine in it, and I thought it would be appropriate enough to just look at his own solo movies. I would review all of the X-Men movies in the Fox universe, but I did not have time for that. I had other things going on with family, just personal things happen. That's why I've been gone for a while. Just family stuff. I've been adding an add-on to my home, so I've been busy with that. So that's why I've been gone for a while. If any of you were wondering, that's why I've been gone for a while is because of that. So no need to worry. I'm back. I'm gonna be talking about comic book movies, something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I don't know if I chose the right one to do it right off the bat because today I'm going to be talking about X-Men Origins as Wolverine, a very controversial movie. So, without all that stalling out of the way, and with my little intro finally all out of the way, here are my thoughts on the very, very controversial X-Men Origins Wolverine. What could go wrong? Something that I do really like about this movie that does do something with the origins part is I do like how we get to see more of the origin side of Wolverine and Sabretooth, aka Victor, who is played by Liev Schreiber, who I will admit I am a defender on him. I am a huge defender on Liev Schreiber in this movie. I do think he does a very good job. I do like him. And one of my issues with the first X-Men movie is that they don't really explore any uh, origins with Wolverine and Sabretooth. Maybe because again, Wolverine had lost his memory. He doesn't know where he came from, how he is, or if he had any family or anything like that. So it makes sense there. But in the comics, and I believe they were both studied on basically, and they were in the same laboratory when they were turned into these animals. Basically, I could be mistaken. It's been a while since I last read an X-Men comic. I should try and find them again. They're buried somewhere in my garage somewhere, I bet. But yeah, and in this solo universe, we find out that they're both brothers. They're half brothers, I believe, or I believe they're either full blown brothers or half brothers. I could be mistaken. But I do like that we get to see that part of the movie, and I do like how we get a little bit more insight on Sabretooth in the first movie because he is one of my favorite villains for Wolverine. I believe he's the best villain for Wolverine. There's not very many, if you ask me, but I do like him as a character. I do think not Wolverine, Liev Schreiber, excuse me, does a good job as Sabretooth. I've seen a lot of criticism say that he's not a very good choice for him. I have a huge Liev Schreiber defender. I love that guy. He is a great actor. Anything he's in, I end up loving him in, besides the Omen remake. We don't talk about that one though. But yeah, I just love that part of the movie. It's something I've always liked, even when I was a kid, back when I used to watch this movie. So yeah, I do like that part about this movie, and it is possibly my favorite part of the entire movie, which is not a very high bar. Comic book movies have always been known for their action, and the action in this movie is great. I have no complaints about it. Like I said, almost every comic book movie has great action. I don't think there's really one that doesn't. None come to my mind really. Actually, Elektra. Electra comes to my mind. That's a bad movie. It's a very bad movie. But yeah, the action in this movie is great. Like especially my favorite action sequence is when it starts in the barn when that one guy who shoots quickly, when he kills the two elderly people that saved Wolverine basically. And it starts with the barn exploding. Wolverine's on a bike. He takes down the helicopter. That is a badass sequence, and that's when Wolverine gets to really use his new claws, and that's a badass sequence, and I do believe that was a good way to like have Wolverine test out his new claws. That was fucking awesome. That was my favorite sequence in this entire movie. Besides the origins with Sabretooth and Wolverine, that's probably my favorite scene in this entire movie. And so yeah, the action in this movie is great. I do believe the like especially the ending when they fight Deadpool. I'll talk about that, but that fight, you can't deny it's not bad. It's an okay fight. Like, it's still entertaining as fuck. But yeah, the action wise, they do a damn good job. When you're talking about an X-Men movie or a Wolverine movie in this X-Men universe, in this Fox universe, you cannot deny Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. He is always great in what he's in. It's glad that he finally gets his own solo movie to where he is the main focus, to where to an extent, he does feel like more like the main focus in the X-Men trilogy or the other X-Men movies. It does kind of feel like that. I won't lie, he does feel like more of the focus in the X-Men trilogy. God, this fucking blanket. Than any of the other X-Men. But it's good to see him get his own solo movie. And Hugh Jackman, that man was just born to play this role, and I am so fucking excited to see him come back for the first time in like 7 years since Logan. I'll talk about that with Logan. But yeah, Hugh Jackman, he's always great. Even if the movie is terrible or bad, you know he is going to be good because he was just born to play this role. And I always laugh when I look back and I see these people apparently hating his casting as the character because he was apparently known for like Broadway shows or something like that. That's how he got his start. And when people saw he was casted, everyone was like, "That's a terrible casting. He'll never do good." But then when they saw him with the fucking muscles, they were like, "Oh, he's gonna do good." And then when you see the first X-Men movie, you're like, "Dude, this guy, you know he's gonna be fucking iconic," and he has been. Because 20 years later, oh my God, X-Men came out 20 years ago. Jesus fucking Christ. 20 years later, this guy is possibly the most praised comic book actor in all of history. I will stand by that. He is possibly the best comic book casting of all time, and he's great in this as always. He'll always be Wolverine to me. And one thing I am very nervous about with the new MCU X-Men movies supposedly coming out, which you know they're going to get new actors for, and I'm glad for that. Other people should have a shot. I am nervous to see someone else play Wolverine. Like, I want to see other people try to portray him. Hugh Jackman wants other people to try to portray him, as other people should, but there's just no denying that Hugh Jackman just is Wolverine, and I can't see anybody else playing him. Maybe in the future somebody will do a good job, but there's just no denying that Hugh Jackman is just Wolverine. He is this role, he is this character, and whenever someone finally replaces him, when we've been teased for that for years after Logan ended, it's gonna be hard moving on, but we're gonna still think we're gonna still say Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. We're not moving on from that. Moving on to my mixed aspects, I do think seeing other mutants is okay, I guess, but I never felt like they deserved to be in this movie because this is Wolverine's movie. This is Wolverine's supposed origins. Why do we need to see other mutants? Why is that there? Like, to kind of set up, like, how we got to see Cyclops, we got to see Gambit for some fucking reason, I'll get to that. And we got to see Professor X at the ending, and we just saw all these other mutants throughout the entire movie, like this guy who can, like, teleport, this, like, big muscular guy, a guy who could shoot fast. You get to see a version of Deadpool or whatever. It's like, sure, it's cool to see other mutants, but it's just like that kind of takes the focus off of Wolverine. It's like, well, this is his movie. Why do we need to see other popular X-Men's? Why do we need to see Cyclops? Why the fuck is he in this movie? I have no idea why the fuck that is there. I don't understand that. Like, that really makes me question it. I don't mind it. It doesn't hurt the movie, but I just felt like it just took the focus off of Wolverine because this is his movie. The movie is about his origins. Focus on that. We don't need to see other mutants. It's cool to see them, but we just don't need to see them. And now, moving on to my negatives. One of my biggest negatives about this movie that I didn't realize who this character was for the longest time. I fucking hate this version of Deadpool. I
What the fuck is that?
hate this character in this movie. And to where I didn't even know this was Deadpool for the longest time because I watched this movie back when I was like 4 or 5 years old. That's how young I was watching this movie. I didn't know who that character was. I just thought he looked cool. I was like, oh, that's a cool looking character. He's kind of badass at the ending. He can shoot lasers out of his eyes. He can teleport. He has long ass swords coming out of his hand like Wolverine. That's a badass character when I was younger. But then when I found out that was Deadpool after watching the brilliant 2016 action comedy. And then when I look at that movie, and then I look over at this piece of shit over here, you find out that's Deadpool. That it thing? No, that is not Deadpool. No, that is Doof Cool. That is a doofus pool. Whatever they just decided to do, it's like, what the fuck were you thinking? To where I honestly question why Ryan Reynolds kind of agreed to that. To where I, at the point when I find that out, I'm like, dude, I feel so bad for him because this movie came out in 2009, I believe, and Wolverine, not Wolverine, not Deadpool didn't come out for like another 7 years. 7 years. And that movie went through development hell. And I'll get to that soon. But it's just like, when you hear that, it's like you feel so bad for Ryan Reynolds. And I am so glad he got his redemption with his own Deadpool movie. And he is about to basically save the MCU with Deadpool and Wolverine. Whatever the fuck you were on back in 2009, everyone's just gonna point and laugh at you for that now, because you made a fucking mistake, dude. My other negative is that I don't really like this new version of Stryker. I liked Stryker in X2 when he was played by Brian, not Brian. What was this? Was it Brian Cox? Is that what it was? Yeah, he was played by Brian Cox. I really hate this blanket. It keeps falling. But anyways, yeah. I like that version of Stryker in X2, which was probably my favorite villain in that trilogy. I know it's a huge hot take because of Magneto, who is a good villain. I'm not denying that, but I like that version of Stryker. He's a good villain, and we get to learn more of Wolverine's origins in X2. And you're like, ooh, Stryker's gonna be in this movie. I wonder who he can bring him. And then you watch it when I rewatch this movie, I see that version. I'm like, oh, this guy fucking sucks in this movie. To where like the actor that actor alone I just don't like because every movie that guy is in, he gives off a terrible performance every time I see him. And for some odd reason, I only see him in comic book movies and he's terrible in them. Like Wonder Woman, the 2017 movie, he's terrible in that. He's going to be supposedly the villain in the new Crow movie, in which do any of us have faith in that movie? Like that guy, every time I see him, he gives off a bland performance. I don't know, if I'm not mistaken as well, he was also in the new Horizon movie back in June. I could be mistaken, which yeah, he was, but he wasn't in it much if I think. I don't think he was in that movie much. But every time I see this actor, he just like not a very good performance and I'm like, dude, who the fuck are you? Why are you acting like this? What is happening? But like he just gives off a bland performance, like his line delivery, like how he's supposed to be like a kind of fuck with your mind type villain. He doesn't feel like that. He just looks like a fucking idiot. And like when you're watching the movie and like it's supposed to be a secret or surprising that he's the one that's telling Sabretooth to go after these mutants and kill him, it's just like, dude, by looking at that guy's face, he is lying. Like the entire time his face just looks like this. That's his face. It's just like, dude, that guy is up to something, and Wolverine, you are stupid if you don't even realize it. Because us, the audience, we know what the fuck is happening. You know how this movie's supposed to be an origin story for Wolverine? Nope. They fucking ruined that. They just fucking rush it like this. Like, you don't even get time to think. Because you know how he gets the adamantium into his system? and how he becomes the Wolverine we all know him as, and when he gets those badass claws. You know how he gets that? Yeah, it's a very popular story in the comics, and a very popular story for Wolverine. We all know the story. We've all seen that comic as comic book fans, I'm assuming. And that's a whole segment in his life in the comics. But in this movie, it's a short 10-minute scene. They put him in the little cool thingy. They put the needles in him like they do in the comics, obviously. And that happens, and you're like, ooh, I wonder where this is going. He's just like, okay, we're gonna erase his memory, and somehow he hears that when he's under the water, and he escapes, kills a shit ton of people, and escapes, and just like, that's it. What the fuck, dude? X-Men Apocalypse did a better job with that shit. Remember Weapon X in that movie? That short 5-minute sequence in that movie is better than the entire origin part of this fucking movie, which only has like 20 minutes of, really, when you think about it. There's only 20 minutes of origins for Wolverine. The rest of the movie, you can just mistake it as just a standalone Wolverine movie. And that's it! I don't know who wrote this script, but whoever approved it, you're a fucking idiot. I don't understand why the CGI in this movie is terrible. And this was in the age of Iron Man. Iron Man just came out a year prior to this movie. Transformers, for fuck's sake, came out around the same year as this. Like 2 years before this movie, if I'm not mistaken. It's like, why does this movie look so shitty? It's like you see like this weird outline around his claws, and it's just like, dude, what the fuck? And then like when Professor X shows up at the movie, he looks fucking fake.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
It's like, what is that thing? The CGI in this movie has me questioning things, especially during the time period came out for comic book movies, like I mentioned, Iron Man and Transformers. Those movies to this day still look better than most recent movies today. And then you're like, when you look at this movie, it's like, what the fuck happened, dude? This is why I'm glad Disney bought Fox, because Fox looked like they did not know what the fuck they were doing. And my final negative, and this one makes me really mad, especially since I'm a big fan of the X-Men animated series. Now, I will make this clear. I watched this movie when I was about 4 or 5 years old, so I have nostalgia for the movie. And this was before I saw the X-Men animated series. I saw the X-Men animated series when I turned like 6 years old. I was watching when I used to watch this movie, and I saw this character called Gambit, and that's just who I thought Gambit was. And then I watched the X-Men animated series, and I go, "That's supposed to be Gambit? Oh, well, he's way better than this." And I recently rewatched it because of X-Men '97 coming out. And I rewatched it, and I was like, oh, god damn, it's great in this movie. And I kind of forgot he was in this movie, and I rewatched it. And I watched it, and I go, what the fuck? That is Gambit? No! They completely waste him in this fucking movie. Because the first scene that we see him in, he does have that kind of coolness and like smooth trick kind of Gambit that we know him as. Like when we first meet him, like Wolverine goes up to him and goes, "Are you Gambit?" He goes, "Well, do I owe you money?" It's like, yeah, that's
Remy LeBeau, do I owe you money?
Gambit. That right there. It's like that gives off Gambit vibes, and then the rest of it's just like, dude, what the fuck are you? And he just like throws a shit kind of ton of cards at Wolverine like this. He's like, hiya, hiya, woo, hiya. And he does that, and then he's trying to tell Wolverine. He goes, "I'm not going back to that island." What happens? He quickly elbows him in the face, and we just don't see him for like 3 minutes. And why is Gambit in this movie? Well, to get Wolverine to the island. Of all fucking mutants, out of all the beloved mutants, you chose Gambit to waste the most. You could have brought in a brand new mutant, a brand new character that is not in the comics. Make your own fucking character, and just have that person bring Wolverine to the island. But no, we're gonna use this swinging dick looking Gambit. It really makes me question who wrote this movie. It really does. All in all, guys, this movie is technically terrible. This movie is bad. Is it as bad as some people make it out to be? To an extent, yes. It is bad as people make it out to be, but I have some nostalgic for it, so I am a little bit more forgiving on it, which I'm not helping my case with all my long ass negatives and all my problems with the movie. But I don't hate the movie. I don't think it's a terrible movie. I do have a lot of issues with the movie, but I feel I'm letting nostalgia get in the way for this movie because I do have a lot of nostalgia for it. But I don't hate it. I don't recommend this movie if you're a Wolverine. I don't recommend this movie if you're looking for an origins for Wolverine. I don't recommend this movie if you're an X-Men fan or a comic book fan. I wouldn't recommend it for that. But I feel if you're just like an average viewer, you might like the movie. But I can't recommend the movie because it is bad. But would I hate rewatching it? No. I've watched this movie multiple times because of nostalgia. I don't hate the movie. I just don't recommend it. What do you guys think about X-Men Origins as Wolverine? Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Do you actually like this movie? Do you think this was a good way to tell Wolverine's origins? Or are you like everyone else on the world and basically hate this movie and say this is a terrible Wolverine movie? Let me know in the comments below and we shall talk about it. If you like this video, like it. If you love to subscribe, hit the bell notification so you will get notified for all of my latest videos. And of course, until my next video, I'll see you all next time.